Crumpet.
Crumpet.
No, he's got to get camera on me to start. Right. So I'm Craig Hoare. I'm outlaw number 85. I normally play number 8 or in the back row. I'm straight and my pronouns are he and him. I'd like to introduce you to Rick. Rick, introduce yourself.
Hello, Rick. I am the original number 8, RD8. So going way back. Gay, he, I suppose. I've never really thought about pronouns, but there you go.
Okay, brilliant. Right, so I've got a set of questions that I've been given. So these are aimed at talking about perception of the LGBTQ community, rugby community in general, and just to get us to chat and talk about some stuff. So we'll run through the questions and we'll just see where we go with it. So what comes to mind when you think of LGBTQ plus spaces or groups such as the Boston or Q space?
No, I don't know. I think there's a sense of fun about it. You go to these places and you hear certain types of music and everybody hears the same thing, and there's a sense of shared community about it. Which, it's important for people at various stages in their life. A lot of it's sort of cheesy and a bit, low culture. Good fun.
The other way round, because interestingly, obviously from when I was asked the question as a straight guy coming into that, what my present in comparison to, for want of a better term, straight environments, how important is it for that to have those spaces? Probably a different way, maybe.
Yeah, it's important. I think everybody's starting their journey in life. You look for a space that you recognize and that you feel comfortable in, and that kind of environment, it's very welcoming to see people who are like you and share the same enjoyment of the same stuff. And and even like bad music becomes a shared fun event for everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good. Interesting. When you think of a traditional rugby club, what images come to mind?
I think there's a certain stuffiness to the traditional rugby club. You tend to get really quite old people running the club, being on the board, running the bar, and then very young people, and I say that because I'm quite old, playing in the teams. And then you get a few people in between. But generally at traditional clubs, you get quite a strong youth team, and there's a youth bit to it that feeds into the first team, the second team and stuff. But once you go past the age of 25, 30, you don't see the players. And then there's a big gap to the people who have been running the club forever. And they're all that other generation thing. And it's pretty unchanging. You see that model pretty much everywhere. All these clubs are basically the same. It's a young person's game and an old person's club to run.
Yeah. I've totally experienced that. I've never thought of it that way. And I know certainly a lot of clubs struggle past university age because, you get them the youth, then they play the Colts and they go off to university, and it's hard to get them to sort of come back up to university. They might well play at university, but life gets in the way, I suppose.
Yeah. And they're local and people leave, people go and, make their way in the world. And life takes over, doesn't it?
And then it's the Blazer Brigade.
Yeah, and then there's people that, and everyone has the same enjoyment of the Six Nations and stuff and do all that, but it's the actual art of playing is that young people play, old people run it. I think is what you see in traditional clubs.
No, absolutely. So what did you think a gay inclusive rugby club would be like?
I don't know. I mean, it's a long time ago now that I joined, and there really weren't very many around. And, you know, back then, the Outlaws, we were very small. I don't think we couldn't have fielded a team at the start. And I think we didn't really know what it was going to be like. And I think everybody was kind of making their way. Yeah, we used what we could in Northampton. We used the park, and we used the Boston, and the mighty edge of town, and all that sort of stuff. And it just kind of grew. I don't think I particularly thought it would be like anything. I think joining such a young club, I think I expected it to be small and lacking formality and stuff. And that's exactly what it was. And then it sort of grew around me while I was there.
So had you played before then?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I started school,
Mm-hmm.
which is a while ago. We're going way back to 1990, I suppose I started playing. And then I played on and off ever since, really. Played quite a lot at school, then I played a bit at university. But that got a bit high level, so I kind of ditched that. And then a couple of years sort of working out where I'd live and stuff, and then I had to go playing with local clubs. Sort of came to the conclusion that wasn't for me. And then the Outlaws was, well, I'll give this a go, see what it's like. Slightly different version of the same game. And here I am now.
Oh,
still playing, age 41.
Well, I might, depending on your birthday is, I might just pip you there. So I'll be 42 in June. So yeah, I know how you feel. I just said to Andy actually, and I'm to the point where I'm good for a cameo now. I'm not sure I'm good for a full game.
No, that's it. Now I'm 80 minutes is a struggle, but I quite often find that there aren't substitutes available, so you having to do it.
Shut up and get on with it. Oh. Yeah. How has the Outlaws changed your views of rugby clubs or teams?
Well, I mean, if we go back to 2011, I think the whole world of IGR has grown quite dramatically since then. I think back then there was London, Manchester, and Edinburgh, I think, were around. And then there were some other small clubs which have sort of come and gone. But to watch it grow around the world and watch the success of clubs in all the different towns over time has been quite dramatic. And then you really see it at the tournaments.
Yeah.
You go to the Union Cup and I suppose the Bingham Cup, and you see the scale of it and you see the global nature of it. It's been quite a stratospheric rise, I think. It's been in that decade.
I would agree. I know when I talk to people, because you play rugby. I play rugby. Who do you play for? And I play for an inclusive rugby team, and they're sort of fascinated because it's, as you say, it's in some ways it's a new thing, but it's not. And then I talk about the Bingham Cup. Oh yeah, and I played against a team from Texas. Oh no, they were Dallas. And then there was an Australian team, and then there was a team from Newcastle, and they're fascinated. What? I'm like, yeah, the global scale of it. When you talk to people that aren't familiar, yeah, quite surprised by.
Yeah, it's fascinating, really. And I think rugby in general is not that international. I don't think there's many traditional clubs in other countries like Spain and Italy and things that you go and mix with. I mean, it's a France, England, Ireland, Wales, Scotland thing. I guess there must be other rugby clubs in America, but it seems everywhere in America has an IGR club. I've no idea how many non-IGR clubs there are.
Absolutely. I think it's certainly a traditional sort of, what about the term, colonial certainly I suppose you're Australia, New Zealand, that's why you've got, because you always think Namibia in the World Cup. Why Namibia? But again, it's just wherever Brits have gone and then lived to play rugby, I suppose. It's that lasting legacy. So how has the Outlaws changed your view of the gay scene, or has it changed your view of the gay scene?
I suppose you see the high profile London nightclub life and all that sort of stuff, and you don't see gay scene otherwise. Really, it's all that sort of. All that sort of, and that's all very youth orientated, very night orientated, and I think the Outlaws is an example where it's, it is a thing that is normal life, and it's part of life, and it's just a different version of it that isn't sort of lasers and discos and nightlife and stuff. So I think it really opens everyone's eyes to just seeing what normal actually is. And
yeah, absolutely. And from a straight perspective, being in Amsterdam at the Bingham Cup, and then I can't remember if it was Trappers or Law that I was with, and we're in this sort of gay street in Amsterdam, and they're explaining that's a twink bar and that's a bear bar, and all the subset that it's not just one stereotype of gay scene that you would, as you say, London, you'd think that's what gay is. There's so many different types of gay and normal gay, as in, the bloke down the street that you wouldn't think he's gay, because people think camp and over the top as gay, and it showed me that actually it's everything, every type of person. And that's what I've found fascinated from the outside in, for want of a better term. But yeah, and I think the funniest thing, and it's a story I tell all the time, going in I was told the Twink bar, and RuPaul's Drag Race being on the big giant screen, and it was like the Champions Cup final being played in a pub, whereas everyone turned round with a drink and were watching it. Funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was brilliant. Have you any? Oh, we talked about previous playing experience. I've already covered that. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, right, next question. Thinking back, how did you feel before your first training session?
I think I knew I could play rugby, so that didn't bother me. I mean, we were so small back then. It was a few of us in the park. I suppose the big challenge was sort of finding out where they were and who they were and stuff. And I think, you don't know how it's going to work out, whether you're going to get on, whether there's going to be, well, I suppose I didn't know quite how functional the team was going to be. I didn't know whether there was a social side to it already, or whether, and it was all sort of early days. But it didn't take long to sort of work out what was going on, how it was going to be, and it was good.
Excellent. I think I can see how the questions have been sort of angled, but for certain people, certainly from the beginning, they don't have the same experience as somebody later on down the line coming to the team would have, I suppose, where, how was your first training session, when like somebody coming now would have a very different experience to a first training.
It's much more formal. And I've seen people that know how to play, that come along and they know exactly what they're doing. Running forwards, throwing the ball backwards, all those drills, the four corners and all that, they're familiar with it. And then you get people who are new to it, and it's difficult for them because there's a lot of technicality to the game, and rules, and it's quite technical immediately.
Yes.
Before you even start contemplating actually playing and running a scrum and a line out and all that kind of stuff. So if you've not played before, there's a lot to learn, and it must be. And I think it's immediately quite technical, and it just gets more and more technical.
Yeah.
And then, there's the reality of the physical contact. If you're a big person, it is easier because you get hurt less. If you're a smaller person, and because generally you don't do full contact immediately, but it must sort of loom in front of you as a scary thought that this is coming. But I think, and then there's the reality of your first match. There's nothing quite like the real thing. Training never And yeah, I mean, I've been.
I remember when I first started playing and running with the ball, and it took me ages, and I couldn't tell you how long, for that almost that switch to flick between running with the ball, stopping and waiting for the impact, and then running through people. Because it's, as you say, you know, that sort of you're waiting for the tackle, you're waiting for the impact. And am I going to hurt? What's this? To the point where now I just actually look for somebody to run at, as opposed to
absolutely
and then stop and go, oh, about to get hit, you know. Which is like you're saying,
It's like with the kickoff, you've got to, you know, catch the ball if it comes to you. It's if you've never done it before, the pressure and the fear is immense.
Yeah, no, very much so.
But I think whenever I've played that kind of, you need to look at the other people around you. Remember, it is a team game, and if you're a small player, there will be bigger players with you.
Yeah.
And if you're a big player, there will be faster players with you. And you've done to work with what the team's got, and you do your part, and not try to take responsibility for everything.
Yeah, when you're sitting thinking, oh no, I'm in open space, I'm never going to make it that far. Where's the quick one?
Yeah.
You've changed, Rick.
What? I have not.
You have it. Give the ball to Rick and just let him go for it. That was always the way.
Absolutely.
So what advice would you give to a new member or someone out there watching right now who's thinking about getting involved?
I think you just have to give it a try.
Uh-huh.
Yes. It's not. I think it isn't that scary. I think the game has its rules and its laws that you follow, and it works. And once you sort of learn those, you don't need to worry about what's actually scaring you. The game kind of works. And then I think any team environment, it's a nice space to be in. It takes a while for people to get to know you, depending on, you know, what you're like, what others are like. But I think generally everyone's first attempt is to be friendly. No one's really out to get you.
It's very similar to what I said. You know, certainly, I wouldn't. You know, we talked about traditional clubs earlier, and I wouldn't say they were bad, but I think what the Outlaws are is very much inclusive in not just in sexuality, but in skill level, and nobody is berated or chucked under the bus because they don't know what they're doing. They're helped, and I think that to me is the biggest thing I like about the Outlaws, is watching when complete novices turn up and are helped along.
Yeah, I think in a game, in a match, I think the ball tends to find the players who know what they're doing.
Yeah,
it's sort of what happens, and then you watch people become someone that the ball gets to, and you see them early days. Then, you know, they might not even touch the ball; they might just stand on the side, but slowly they find the ball they're doing something with it. They become part of the game, and everyone gets to take part, and that's good. And you can see people get better at it, and they get more confident at it, and
out of it. No, absolutely. So, if you could describe the Outlaws in up to 3 words, what would they be?
I think fun is a good word. I'd say welcoming.
Yeah.
I mean, over the years, I don't think anyone's really been rejected or really criticised. I mean, people are different, and, you know, people form their own friends and stuff. But I think mentally, as a group of people, it's quite cohesive. There you go, third word.
Okay. Cohesive. I like that. Yeah, fun, welcoming, and cohesive. Yeah. Brilliant. So that's been brilliant, Rick. I think it's been really nice to talk to you. You know, we've graced the pitch together many times, but I think this is the conversation we've had. So it's been really enjoyable. So it's been fun. It's been interesting, and I look forward to seeing you pass it on.
Thank you for watching the interview with an outlaw. If you like what you saw, please click like. And if this is the first time you're here, why not hit subscribe for more from our channel? We release 5 every Friday, so let's see who will pass it on next.